So I kind of have an opinion about everything. Lily's opinion lane. Miraculous Ladybug is a crap show. Now that we have that message out of the way, if you didn't know it was a crap show already, well, there's your wake-up call. So I'm sorry, but it is. It's poorly executed and poorly written, and today I'm only going to focus on one of my issues with the show because I have so many issues with it. I don't even know where to begin, but for today we're gonna focus in on just one, and that is their underutilization of characters, specifically Adrien Agreste / Cat Noir. So let's get into that. So right off the bat, my main problem is the title of the show, which gives the impression that they are in fact equals when it is clear in any given episode that they are not. The title of the show, its formal full title, is Miraculous Ladybug, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir, giving the impression that they are equal counterparts and that this show will be divided 50-50 between the two of them. That is not the case. Majority of the show is given from Marinette's perspective, with very few episodes including Adrien's perspective getting to see what happens from his side of the story. And instead, we get to see Adrien through Marinette's filtered lens of him, which is seeing him as this perfect model who's amazing and has no flaws or faults. Now granted, we also get to see how she views Cat Noir, which is the more pure version of Adrien, of who he wishes he could be to the world but cannot be, and we get to see her impression of that. But either way, you're not seeing Adrien's opinion on any matter. It's very rarely do we get that, and if we do, it's usually just to talk about how he's in love with Ladybug and nothing else. He has to be this incompetent toddler child of a sidekick instead of being an actual partner and equal to her. Now, before we continue on this tangent, I will start off by saying I understand that this is a children's show and I may be asking a lot, but then I think about how Avatar: The Last Airbender is also a children's show and is a phenomenal show that is appreciated by adults also. So I think asking a bit more of a kids show isn't a lot, because I feel like kids deserve to have good storytelling and good characters to be presented to them, as opposed to just half-assed writing. Second, I understand that this show is being marketed as a girls show, meaning that you're going to want to follow the female's perspective for most of the show. I understand that, but you would open up your marketing opportunity by giving it a 50-50 shot between a boy's perspective and a girl's perspective, and allowing you to market to even more kids to buy even more of your merchandising. So it would be a smarter move economically. I'm just saying, Zeg Studios, just thought you ought to know. Now, the reason why I think Adrien is a more interesting character than Marinette is because, well, first off, he has the broken home situation. We have mom is dead, dad has now distanced himself because of this death, they're not very close, Adrien is very isolated, he lives this life as Rapunzel, like I said, and so he's isolated from the world and he has to figure out his place in it and who he is to everybody in his life, which is far more interesting. And also, not to mention that Adrien's backstory is the ultimate origin for a villain. His mom's dead, his dad doesn't take care of him, he's very isolated, the one friend he had for most of his life is also pretty mean. Like, you're setting him up to be a villain. Not to mention the superpowers that he's given are literally destruction, which gives you this great opportunity that he could be a villain. Like, he's set up to be a villain basically, and yet he doesn't. He is a good person, he is sweet, he is caring, he's wholesome, he is this very good character. Despite all of these flaws that he has in his life, he continues to be good. And so I think you have a missed opportunity by not using his perspective to see just how alone he is, just how upsetting it is that his mother is dead, how lonely it is to not have your father there after having lost a parent already, having to deal with this whole seclusion from the world, and then finally breaking out and getting to go to school and meeting people for the first time and figuring out how the world works because you've never been allowed to do that. I also think that they should really dig into Adrien's past, because clearly if he's never gone to school before, that means even prior to mom dying, he was stuck inside, which gives me a questioning of what the hell was going on prior to this, which also leads into fan theories that maybe Emile, his mom, isn't as good as we think she is because, well, why would you trap your son inside the house for all those years? Just saying. Now, Adrien is a great character, but I don't want to just sit here going on my soapbox about how great he is. I will now compare him to Marinette as a personal life perspective, not necessarily as characters themselves, but the personal lives and how much more interesting they are compared to one another. Adrien's life having this broken home situation is very interesting. Meanwhile, Marinette has two living, loving, supportive parents that are always there for her, which makes her personal family life not that interesting. Not to mention, Marinette gets to do whatever she wants. She gets to indulge in her hobbies. She gets to go hang out with friends. She gets to go on dates with boys. She gets to live a normal life, which is not nearly as interesting as someone trying to get out and figure out who they are in the world. Now, I'm not saying you should have no perspective of Marinette. Obviously, you should have this split 50-50 instead. Instead of having every 12th episode including a small percentage of Adrien's perspective, maybe have it that every other episode alternates between each perspective. So maybe episode 1 is from Marinette's perspective and we get to see her going on a date or clumsily trying to figure out how to put together a fashion show or whatever it is that she needs to do for hijinks for that episode. And then the next episode we get to follow Adrien and how he needs to try and get out of a fashion photo shoot so he can go and actually live a life that isn't just being a slave to his father who he never gets to see, or actually showcase how smart and interesting Adrien is, as opposed to just showcasing him as this model that everybody thinks is so attractive and so perfect, and actually give him a character outside of Marinette's own idolization of him. Because Adrien is not a flawless character, obviously, and neither is Chat Noir his true self. So we need to showcase that better instead of just having it, oh, Marinette loves him, everybody loves him, he's so amazing. It's like, no, he needs to have faults. Otherwise, he's not real. He's not a real person. He's just there, and it just makes him this kind of like side background character essentially if he has no faults. A great way that you could showcase this is if you have Adrien become more rebellious from his father, which yes would be a good thing by him sneaking out and escaping and ditching photo shoots and stuff, but it would start to create some tension, making it that Adrien isn't such a perfect kid as everybody thought. He's more rebellious now, he starts doing more and more drastic things, people start to get concerned because he's so drastic and he's so different than what they thought he was, and so people start to question, is this who I really know? Or is this just a front he's been putting on the whole time, because Adrien has been having to put on fronts his whole life. What's also very frustrating, I find, is not having Chat be in contact with Master Fu. I think it's a bit ridiculous that he's not, considering he's supposed to be the equal counterpart to Ladybug, considering they're yin and yang, that he doesn't get to know what Master Fu does or who he is or what he has planned. So I personally would have it that he actually has contact with him if you plan to have them be equal partners. Otherwise, he just seems like this unimportant side character that's just there to be used as a plot device when you need to have some tension, like having him sacrifice himself for the umpteenth time. Having Chat sacrifice himself every episode does not raise the stakes at all, okay? It just makes me go, oh, it's gonna happen yet again and she's gonna fix it and everything's gonna be fine, and now we just get to have the rest of the episode without Chat, who is your most interesting character. Just use him instead of sacrificing him, and like actually have him be an equal partner to her, because it just is so boring. I'm sorry, but it's just like, come on. He has all this potential as a smart person in general, plus his superpowers, plus his fencing abilities, that you could actually use him instead of just a, here, he's the human shield that gets to die in the first 5 minutes of a fight. Like, can we not, please? Like, literally anything else, like anything else but the sacrificing bit. It's getting a little tiring at this point. We're on season 4 and he's still doing it. It's a little boring, I'm sorry. Now, currently in the show, they're trying to create this divide and a rift between Chat and Ladybug because she's now the guardian and she has all these responsibilities. And it actually is affecting Marinette's personal life, making her very isolated, and I believe the counteracting is supposed to be Adrien becomes very connected with people and becomes very sociable in comparison, so that way they're now kind of switching places, which would actually be really interesting if it could be executed properly. Now, part of this problem of not getting to see this executed as nicely, I think has to do with how episodes get released out of order. So I give them that benefit, is that they don't really get that control of what episodes go out when, but it also seems to me when I do watch the show in the correct order of like episode 1 to 2 to 3, it still seems like episode knowledge, like you go from one episode where, oh, this was revealed, the next episode it's not brought up again and nobody knows anything about it, and it's not brought up till like episode 12, and you're just like, okay, so these aren't in chronological order either, even if you watch them in number order. So I still think there's a flaw there in the writing. I'm just saying you could do, even if you were unable to control the episode release order, you should be writing the episodes in chronological order, okay? I'm just saying. Getting past the episode writing orders and chronological releases and things like that, setting that aside, I'll focus on the main plot point right now that's being put into the season, which is that they are trying to create a divide between Chat and Ladybug, obviously. By having Ladybug become the guardian, she has now got all these responsibilities and having to deal with all this stuff, and so she is now relying upon the Miraculouses that she has to hand them out to all of her friends, which, don't even get me started on how ridiculous it is that nobody has noticed that she is Ladybug because she's literally just given all the Miraculouses to her classmates. I'm sorry, but have you not noticed this? Like, I'm just saying, it's a little odd that everybody in the class is getting a Miraculous. Like, open your eyes, people. Anyhow, getting past the BS magic crap that we have to use to, you know, make the plot continue. She's relying more on the Miraculous to use as a team and to solve her problems, and creating Chat to be out in the cold and not utilized in any plans almost ever. He's just kind of there and then he gets disregarded. She doesn't seem to talk to him as much and he just leaves and usually is pretty sad. And I get it, they want tension, and maybe it will crescendo into something great and it will actually be really interesting. Maybe we'll actually get more Adrien perspective and we will see how Adrien is becoming very isolated yet again, but this time in his superhero alter ego, and watch him become angry and negative, and maybe he either gets akumatized or he turns to the dark side and finally becomes the villain that his backstory has been hinting at this whole time. Maybe something else. Maybe Hawkmoth will reveal himself and say, hey Adrien, I'm doing this to save your mom, and it will become this big whole ordeal. I highly doubt that will happen because Zeg Studios has now announced that they will be doing 7 seasons of this show and we are only on season 4, so maybe this will just be leading up to that ending point where we will just see Chat going downward in happiness and usefulness for the next couple seasons, and then season 7 happens and there's some breaking point. I don't know. I don't know if they see that in the long run. Maybe they're just going to do this for season 4 and then season 5 will have a different arc entirely. It'd be very interesting to see either way. I would really hope that this show could do really well because, like, I think it's a great premise in my opinion. It's a little ridiculous with the whole pleather cat suits and things, but it's a good premise. You have a good idea. You just don't utilize it the best, okay? Like, ugh. The other problem I have is that this rift that they're trying to create with them and the whole she's the guardian now is that it's just making Ladybug look like an ungrateful bitch. I'm sorry, but she's had this equal partner this whole time who she's like, you're my best friend, you know, you are always there for me, like we will always be there for each other and you're always gonna be my right-hand man. And then she gets the miracle box and now all of a sudden, who's Chat? I don't know who he is. I have Alia now and that's all that matters. Like, I'm sorry, but what? Like, it just seems rude and like makes no sense because she's supposed to be the closest with him as like a partner because they can trust each other because they've done so many missions together, and now all of a sudden she's like, well, my real life best friend I've now entrusted with a Miraculous, so now nothing matters about you because I now have my real best friend and not my you who's like just my superhero best friend. Like, just now I will tell you how I would handle this with Adrien and using him as a character. First off, like I suggested, every other episode would be from Adrien's perspective so we could actually get to know him as a person and not just this idolized model that everybody loves. Second, I would actually explain what the hell is Adrien's backstory, because, like, seriously, why has he been trapped inside his whole life, okay? His mom only died like a year or 2 ago and he's 14, okay? So why has he never gone to school before? I would explain that and give you some backstory and explaining why is it that he's stuck there. Was he sick? Was there an incident? Did he get kidnapped as a child? Like, give y'all some backstory so you can understand what's going on in that little head of his and what's going on in his parents' minds. Second, I would have Chat and Ladybug be proper equals. They would both get to go see Master Fu, not necessarily together, but Master Fu would be informing them both equally, telling them what's going on, what is happening, here's your superpowers, here's your power-ups, like actual contact so that chat is not in the dark because it's a bit ridiculous. Also, I would not have him sacrifice himself nearly as frequently. I would only have it if it was a very difficult villain and she needed more time, so he sacrifices himself to give her some extra minutes to figure something out. Not saying I'd get rid of it entirely, but I would just make it so it actually seemed to matter, where it would actually give an impact on her having to see him die and going, oh my god, he sacrificed himself here, instead of just every episode he sacrifices himself. It gets a bit tiring to watch him sacrifice every episode. Like, I like the big crescendo of like a self-sacrifice, but like, you can't do it too much, otherwise it just becomes like, oh, okay, yeah, she's gonna fix it and he'll be fine, whatever. Like, also, for the whole divide of that's currently happening in the 4th season, I would have it that because now that I've had it that Fu was talking to Chat the whole time, now that Ladybug is the guardian, she's the one that's being guarded and mysterious, and Chat doesn't understand why, because he's like, I've been informed by Master Fu the whole time, why aren't you talking to me? And she's like, I can't trust anyone. And he starts to get betrayed because she doesn't think she can trust him, and he finds that cold because he's done nothing but love her and support her and be her partner this whole time. And so that starts to cause the divide, and that's why she starts relying on others, because she doesn't think she can trust him anymore for whatever reason. Maybe there's some indication by Hawkmoth that he's not who he seems, and so it's like, ooh, I can't trust him anymore. You know, give it a whole thing, you know? I would just want them to have a divide that's natural, because now that she's the guardian, she has all these more responsibilities, so she can't trust him as much, or she doesn't feel like she should be relying upon him as much, because now they're not technically equal, she's technically above him because she's this guardian and she has more responsibility. I think that would create more of a good rift. Plus the fact of if she's relying on more other people to be her partners, he starts to feel jealous and more isolated, and he's like, well, what's my point of being here? I'm all alone. The woman that I love doesn't love me back. She doesn't trust me. She never relies on me anymore. What is my point of being here? And that's how he gets akumatized and turned into Chat Blanc, and now she has to deal with that, and she has to realize the damage that she's done. But this time, instead of all rainbows and sunshine afterwards when she deakumatizes him, he's still mad at her. He still expects an apology, she has to apologize, and he's still distrustful of her even if she tries to fix it, and she starts to rely on him more again, realizing that it wasn't fair, but he's still miffed. He's still like, this wasn't nice, this wasn't okay, this isn't how you should treat your friends, like, that's not alright. This isn't just gonna fix itself, it's gonna take some time and a lot of groveling to make up for it, okay? So that would be my option A, or option B is he goes to the dark side for a while and he like works with Hawkmoth, because I think that would be kind of interesting to see him work with him not knowing it's his father, and then eventually Hawkmoth revealing, I'm doing this to save my wife, and showing who his wife is, and then Adrien's like having a mental breakdown going, oh shit, it's for my mom. Now he really has this, like, he's got a horse in this race going, okay, do I help my dad save my mom? Or do I stop him from doing this really bad thing by taking these and making a wish to bring her back from the dead? And just really that inner turmoil, you know? Give us some inner turmoil and see where does Adrien's character lead him. Because I think it would be interesting to see which way Adrien would swing. Would he save the day or would he save his mom? Because it's hard to ask a teenager to save the world over your mom, who you've been close to, who you've now lost and you thought was gone. So I think that'd be interesting to see which way would he swing morally in deciding who do I want to save the world for? Do I want to save my world or the whole world? Not to mention the fact that with Yin and Yang, which is what Miraculous Ladybug is based on, Yin and Yang is supposed to be the drop of good in the badness and the drop of badness in the goodness, or evil in the goodness, you get it. And Adrien's supposed to be the drop of evil in the goodness, hence why he has a black t-shirt and then a white overshirt. Meanwhile, Marinette has a white t-shirt and a dark overshirt, so she's the drop of goodness in the evil. So I'm just saying, it'd be interesting to see that dark side of him come out here and saying, I'm not gonna do what's right for everybody. I'm gonna do what's right for me. I'm gonna be selfish, and I'm gonna be that villain that I've been set up to kind of be, that I've been rejecting this whole time, but now I'm going to accept it and become the bad guy. Just for a little bit, and then we could turn it around, okay? Because I love Adrien, so I don't want him to be a bad guy, but I think it would give him a more complete arc, okay? Just hear me out, guys. So I think that would give him a nice complete arc, seeing him show his bad side, but he's also still good, and giving him this whole inner turmoil issue. Meanwhile, Marinette having to deal with her new responsibilities, having to balance between being the goodness and being responsible for everybody, and that balance and how they conflict with each other. It's just kind of a rough idea I have. This is mainly just about Adrien and his utilization in the show and how I think it should be used better than what it is. I have many other complaints about this show, so if you would like to hear more, please comment down below letting me know that you would like to hear about that. Otherwise, my name's been Lily and this has been my niche. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and possibly hit that bell notification. I post videos every Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!